All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited about this one here tonight on Sportswire Radio because this is a guest which doesn't happen too often. And I almost feel like kind of eluded me over the past several months. I don't know if it's a New Year's resolution quite, but we're going to find out why he's somebody that I've wanted to have on here for a very, very long time. And of course, he has been a world heavyweight champion, he has been a tag team champion. He is definitely living a dream in a world full of nightmares. And he's going to be a part of a very, very intriguing match that we spoke about here just before 2022 ended in a mafia versus mafia match. And no, we're not talking about a battle of New York crime families. We're talking about the modern day mafia and the playtime mafia. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited about this one. I think you're going to be excited as well. So, with wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report. Number one, global sports show, pro wrestling star here from UKW, Blackheart Wrestling, and non-stop action wrestling, non-stop, never stop. It is Jayrow. My
That might,
friend.
that might be the best intro I've ever had. Like, brilliant.
Well, you know what? I'm certainly not going to slight Shelby. I'm certainly not going to slight Jenny Hayes or anybody else who's done them. But I appreciate that because I was like, boy, I don't know if this is going to be too good because we were supposed to have on Champagne Charlie and the Nomad Dalton Garrett. They actually had to postpone for scheduling conflicts. They'll be back Monday. And then I was kind of like on the phone with somebody on and on and on. And it was like, I don't know if I'm going to have a voice. And then I did that. And I guess you didn't mind. But,
Nailed it.
it has been. You have been the guy that has eluded me for a while. So I don't have many people at this point that have eluded me, but it's you, my friend. I've gotten a chance to watch you on Asylum. I've gotten a chance to watch you on some different nonstop action wrestling shows, and it has been a tremendous honor to have you here finally. But Jayrow, I've got to ask you here because certainly it has been the talk of social media the past few weeks, and we're going to see a mafia versus mafia match here, February the 4th at the Tommy Dillon Wrestling for Kirkwood show. It's a charity show to benefit the loss, sadly, of his wife. But I mean, modern day mafia versus playtime mafia. I know you want to respond about what Mr. Joel Cobra had to say. So for those that are watching and listening to this on Sportswire Radio, I give you now the floor to your responses on what Mr. Joel Cobra had to say about you and Cerebral Steve from the end of 2022.
Well, first of all, he said that he respects Steve, which is fair enough. It's hard not to. I mean, you can't not, right? I mean, it's an assassin for a reason. I mean,
fair point.
Dangerous.
Yes, we've spoke about him many times on Sportswire. Yes, we have.
There's a reason I aligned with him. You know what I mean? There's a reason. Like he were lost in his ways, and I decided to give him a little bit of help. And I kind of created a monster, to be fair, didn't I? But I mean, sometimes that happens, doesn't it? And I won't stop him. I mean, he can carry on. As for Joel Cobra, he said that he didn't respect me. And okay, that's fair enough. I mean, I've done more in my pinky finger than he has in his career, but that's just for me, you know. I'm very well aware that Joel Cobra and Dave Douglas are dangerous guys. The modern day mafia. I know how dangerous they are. I've been watching them. I've been keeping my eye on them, but clearly they don't know how dangerous we are. I mean, to say things like they don't respect me and, you know, come on then, little man. It's like the amount of times I've heard that, little man. I'm very well aware that I am 5'6". I am 125 pounds. You know, I am not a big guy. I understand that, but you know, that's why people underestimate me and then they pay for it. I mean, Joel Cobra is not even the biggest guy I've faced. I mean, I've faced so many big guys over the years.
UKW, you've had some big people to deal with. The Persian Empire. I mean, we saw what they've done in UKW. So I would definitely agree with you to that extent. And I have some comments here first because I almost have to get to them. We have here a good evening from Andrew Hanley. Love Andrew. And we have here somebody that you might know, Mr. Big Duncan.
Oh, I love Duncan. I love Dunk. He's my
He says,
current tag team partner at UKW, to be fair.
well, I was going to get to that in a little while, but Big Duncan went straight to the jugular there. He says, beat me at WrestleBration, and definitely we'll talk a lot about UKW here for sure. There's a lot of crossover, and I'll come back to Big Duncan in a second, but I'm going to ask you this question, and I didn't think I was going to ask it, but I'm going to ask it to you now that you're here, because you mentioned some different things. Obviously, the size differences for sure. Modern Day Mafia are obviously one of the biggest teams in all of wrestling around the world. But I mean, do you think it's mind games? Do you think that Joel Cobra, because now they're under the tutelage of Uncle Ralph and there's something called the Don that is out there, are they trying to maybe intimidate you? Are they trying to play mind games, you think, when it comes to maybe this match and trying to maybe get under your skin that way?
Yeah, but the thing is about mind games is that he's not the first, probably won't be the last, and I'm gonna do something right now I don't usually do, and that's hang on, blow my own trumpet. No one plays mind games better than me. I mean,
I understand that. I've watched you,
to.
no question.
I have to, you know. I mean, he can play them all he wants, but like, I'll take a quote what he said. When we're stood in the ring, when it's 2-on-2, and we get to fighting, then we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it.
So are we as well, and certainly February the 4th. I mean, what a way to start the new year almost. We've got February the 4th, the Tommy Dillon show. You're on UKW, which you're going to definitely spend a lot of time on. I definitely want to get into UKW, and I want to give a shout out to Big Duncan, and I'll give a shout out to somebody else that's tuned in here. But I mean, you've got that. Then you've got Nonstop Action Wrestling's Fatal Attraction. So I kind of feel like in a lot of ways, Jayrow, and tell me your thoughts on this. I kind of feel like that this match coming up here in the Mafia versus Mafia match, which I've kind of referred to it here, almost kind of sets the tables in a way for you in 2023. Do you kind of feel that way as well?
I mean, it's not a bad start, is it? I mean,
a win here, because if you look at what the Modern Day Mafia did to kind of restart their careers in Cutlery Championship Wrestling, where they basically they eliminated the Working Class Militia, who were the CCW Tag Team Champions. We saw them in GT Ministries. Slugger Hampton was in Nonstop Action Wrestling over the summer in 2022. I mean, so those guys are a very well-established tag team, and those guys pretty much handled them like it was nothing. There was no tomorrow. So I think a win here for you guys, I think kind of, especially for you, establishes you as somebody that's going to go back to having gold. You've been a world champion. You've been a tag team champion. That's why I kind of think it's a big win here, if that's the case.
Oh, it'll be a huge win. You know, I'm not.
That's why I asked the question.
Oh man, but yeah. Sorry, I just had another train of thoughts about Joe Cobra and Dave Douglas as well. Like, just thinking about
and we'll come back to that. And that's why I kind of think here it's an important one for you guys to start the year off, because in a lot of ways, it's for whatever you do anywhere else. I kind of feel like that this sets the tone that, you know what, it's going to be a big year for Jayrow in 2023.
I hope so. I mean, currently at the minute, I'm actually injured, but I am up to back in 2 to 3 weeks, so I will be back in time for February 4th. But
well, you said that when we were on the air with you. I mean, you know, when we had Joel on, and you commented on that. That was a big thing. That February the 4th is coming up here, and I do have some comments, so let me get to them here first. My very good friend, who's become a friend of the station lately, Mr. C2K, Courage to Kill, from the upstate area in New York, says Jayrow gives a thumbs up. He's following you. Michael Knowles, who's been a big fan of our Nonstop Action Wrestling shows on Sportswire, says, well, I see yours truly, and Jayrow, who I've seen live twice. And Michael, you better be there February the 11th at Nonstop Action Wrestling's Fatal Attraction. We hope to see Jayrow there as well, so we certainly hope that'll be 3 times. And I'll get to Big Duncan in a second, but I want to get to the wild card Tommy Dillon, because I'll ask you a question on this event.
Tommy.
So it says, Mafia versus Mafia could be the best tag team match of all time. I'm honored it's on the Kirkwood show. Jayrow Lewis, you are my favorite opponent, and I'm proud to call you a brother. When you hear something like that from the wild card Tommy Dillon, what does that mean to you?
I mean, I'll be honest, when I started out, one of the first people I actually got to know and got close with was Wildcard Tommy Dillon. And he was my second ever opponent in professional wrestling, was Wildcard Tommy Dillon.
Wow,
all them years ago. all them years ago. I mean, we've had a lot of history. I mean, I've actually lost count how many times me and Tommy Dillon have shared a ring, but he's always been respectful. Like, I love him. I love the guy, you know.
And of course, he's the head trainer at Nonstop Action Wrestling, and he was the world-class champion there. He's still undefeated in GT Ministries, kind of gets lost in the shuffle, and that's really where I know Tommy Dillon the most. I mean, yes, in UKW, I've watched him, and you as well, but I mean, in GT Ministries, he has this open challenge, and he's been undefeated in that. He's actually been undefeated in GT Ministries. Kind of goes under the radar there a little bit.
Has he? Has he?
I believe in the open challenges. No? Okay.
Oh, in the open challenges he has. Yes. But I believe a few years ago, I beat the GT Ministries.
Yes, the open challenges. Yes, the open challenge is what because I know in one of the telecasts this actually came up on a GT Ministries show, and they have a show on the 21st of January. And I know you and him have obviously squared off countless times, but I'm pretty sure I had heard this. It might have been I don't know if it was old school MC2 or if it was I think Bradley Cook Pattinson had said this on one of the calls, and he had mentioned that Tommy Dillon is undefeated in the open challenges. So that was
right.
We've seen that he's beaten a number of talents. But let me come back to the Kirkwood show for a second. And obviously, I know that Tommy's right on this could very well be the best tag team match of all time. It's probably going to be the biggest of 2023. But does it add maybe extra weight knowing that you guys are going to be in the ring in a Mafia versus Mafia match, but also for something so important that means so much, not just to Tommy Dillon, but to so many other people who will be impacted by what you guys are going to do?
I mean, what can I say? It's gonna be awesome. The best way I can describe it is gonna be awesome. I mean, I'm gonna have fun. Steve's gonna have fun, you know. And I know he loves kicking people's teeth in. And I know that I know that no respect, fair enough. But I know that Modern Day Mafia, I know they're going to have fun. That's all we're going to do. And we're going to tear the house down. We're going to tear the house down for Kirkwood Hospice. We're going to do it for the memory of Tommy Dillon's wife. And yeah, it could be the biggest tag team match of 2023 before 2023's really got going. You know,
well, I think, you know what? And I really think Tommy Dillon makes an excellent point. I want to come back to some more people here. I have a bunch of shout outs here. So thank everybody here for tuning in. But I really think in a lot of ways, if you look at what all of you have accomplished. The Modern Day Mafia, I've certainly gotten to know them in GT Ministries. CCW, we saw them debut. And then what you guys have done in Nonstop Action Wrestling and in UKW and other places. I mean, between the four of you, I mean, this is a match that you'd almost dream to see. This is a match that we might have expected months down the road, years down the road. I mean, but this is a match here you're going to get here, and it's really a special, it's almost, to me, this could be really the main event of the show. That's how good of a match that this could be. I mean, so Tommy Dillon's absolutely right. And this is a really stacked card to begin with.
Yeah, no. I mean, the thing is, I mean, like you say, the card's stacked already. I mean, there's so much talent already on that card that night. It's going to be hard to follow, you know. But I mean, I'm pretty confident that the Playtime Mafia and Modern Day Mafia are going to settle a score. They're going to tear the house down, and people, they're going to be talking about it all year. I know. I mean,
and I have a feeling on Sportswire Radio, we're going to most certainly be speaking about it throughout the year. And I almost have to ask, well, does the loser of this match have to basically be renamed something else to the Mafia? We asked Joel that question, but I'll leave that at that. I have a bunch of comments here. Let me get to them. Michael Knowles here says, sadly, I can't, but I do want to go, but I have debts to pay. Getting a PS5 has broke me. But I would imagine here, for the Tommy Dillon show, I mean, you could certainly find a way here to scratch up a few pounds, because what we love about these shows here in the UK, I mean, it doesn't cost you that much. It'll cost you a lot less to go to a show like this, the Wrestling for Kirkwood show, versus, let's say, going to the movies, going out to dinner, going out to a football match. So I'm sure that there has to be a way here, Michael, that you could find. Maybe even do a GoFundMe page. Find a way, because you want to be there. You want to watch Jayrow Lewis, Cerebral Steve, Joel Cobra, and Dave Douglas. I promise you, you're going to want to do that here. Also want to give a shout out here to Young Horace. Says, let's go, Jayrow. I'd say we're 1-1 and need a decider.
We do.
Well, I'll be asking.
We definitely do.
Well, I'll promise you this. I'll be asking Young Horace this question when he comes on, because he's going to be in your chair 2 weeks from now today. So he's going to be in your chair, and we owe young Horace an appearance. So we'll make sure that we do that. I want to give a shout out to somebody else that's going to be on the card, and he's going to be in your chair coming up here this Thursday. He is a current world champion in not one, but 2 companies, and he's going to be in probably the main event of the show. That is, of course, the head of the Sportswire table. His name is Disciple. He is, of course, the Wrecking Crew, and what a run he is on. He is the GT Ministries world champion. He is the Nonstop Action Wrestling world-class champion. He's going to be wrestling the Playboy Prince Lance Rivera, who in his own right has the KOW Vertigo briefcase, which gives him a chance to cash in for any title he wants. He's, of course, the Kingdom of Wrestling, where he won their king, and he is also the Wrestle Island world champion. And anything you want to share about the big man before he comes back Thursday? Hopefully you stay on his good side. That would be my advice.
Oh, Disciple? I mean,
yes.
Never crossed paths with him in the ring. Oh, once. Actually, what am I talking about? The last Kirkwood Osprey show in 2019, I believe it was 2019. Disciple was on the opposite team to what? Well, oh no, it was on my team. Sorry, I'm confused. It's been a long time. I've been hitting the head so many times. I'm confused. I've lost track of where I was.
Trust me, I get confused all the time. Don't feel bad.
Of course, we were teammates in the last Kirkwood Osprey show in 2019. We were teammates, of course, in the 5-on-5 eliminator. I was the sole survivor against Lance Rivera, of course. So I'm looking forward to this match. I am looking forward to these guys one-on-one.
I tell you what, I'm looking forward to, because I've had the Playboy Prince on a couple of times, and we spoke about him on Friday's show with ALP, who's the booker and the promoter of Knockout Wrestling. They're out there, a little small company in Barrow, and we were speaking about this. You know, in this case, I don't think I'd want to be Lance Rivera, because I look at what Disciple has done. You've teamed with him. You've known him for a while, and what I saw him do to Gareth Angel, what I saw him do to Tommy Dillon in Nonstop Action Wrestling, what I saw, frankly, to what he did to Dave Douglas, the man you're going to be across the apron from a few weeks from now. I mean, he disposed of Dave Douglas pretty quickly in one of the more recent GT Ministries shows. What I saw him do with so many different people over the past few months, I mean, he literally is on a run right now that I just wouldn't want anything to do with him. And I would just want to say, you know what? The floor is yours. Just go ahead. So Lance Rivera is a very confident individual. He's probably the most confident person I've ever interviewed. And I know they have a relationship there, but I think if I'm Lance Rivera, I would probably figure out a way to just let the referee count to 10 and not show up. That would be my advice. So I do want to get to some more comments here. I have Taylor Truths, who is, of course, going to be our guest from CCW, and he gives you some advice because he saw the modern-day Mafia up close. He says, confidence can be binding. Do your homework and prepare for a war. Is this the Mafia that's facing the modern-day Mafia? Good luck. You're going to need it. What's your thoughts from that from somebody from CCW?
You know, I'm not too familiar with CCW. I mean, I've never had the chance to grace my presence, or me and Steve have never been able to come over and grace our presence in the tag team division. So maybe I do need to do my homework. Maybe I do need to look into them a little bit more if people are telling me this. But then again, quite clearly, they haven't done their homework if they're thinking that I'm worried.
That's an excellent point. And you do have, by the way, a weapon, that, certainly...
Which unfortunately isn't here at the minute, so I can't even get
that was the first thing I thought about before we we're going to go on the air. I'm like, you know what? Is he going to have the hammer? Is he going to have that sledgehammer there? Because I was thinking about it. I mean, you're the one that's known for it, not Triple H. Because I've seen you in Nonstop Action Wrestling with it. I've seen you in UKW with it. So I was kind of like, well, I'm really hoping to see it. But I have plenty of more comments here, so let me try to get to everybody here. Let me first come back to... Mr. Big Duncan, he gives you a big woohoo, and then he also says here, "What about me, Tommy?" Is that referred to Tommy Dillon? That
is this coming Friday. It's going to be Big Duncan versus Wildcard Tommy Dillon 1-on-1. I believe I will be in Big Duncan's corner, and Rex Savage is going to be in Tommy Dillon's corner.
Ooh, Rex Savage is in Tommy Dillon's corner, and I tell you what, I mean, if you weren't following UKW for that, I mean that's a match that's almost like that's a big deal there. I mean, don't give away anything. Neither should you or Big Duncan should give anything away here before the show. That's going to be a match in itself. That could also be a main event here. So definitely a look forward to that. I have a bunch of more comments. So first, let me come back to Disciple because I'm a big fan of Disciples. Been a while since we've been in the ring together. Would love to have a one-on-one, and I would think it would mean something extra because Disciple's the man right now in UK wrestling. He is literally, to me, the man right now. He's got 2 world titles. He's all over the place, and Disciple's been a movie star. He's been a world champion before, but the run he's on right now, I mean, I think if you guys can get through the modern day mafia, I mean, maybe you and Disciple somewhere in a different company. I mean, you never know, right?
I wouldn't say no. I'd love that. I would love to dance with Disciple one-on-one. I mean, I've watched him for years. I mean, I've seen how good he is. I've seen, again, like you say, he's on this run at the minute. I mean,
It's impressive what I've seen him do. You think about Maverick Matt Williams at the last GTM show. Dave Douglas, who you're going to be across the apron from on February the 4th. Certainly Gareth Angel, Tommy Dillon. I mean, it's just a long list of people that have basically fallen to the wayside from Disciple and the run that he's going to be on. And Thursday night, 9 o'clock. And right before that, I have on Jinnah for the first time. And Jinnah's another guy that has got a lot going on. He's going to be coming to my neck of the woods in the United States in the month of March. So we've got some big things ahead. And I actually want to give a segue to that because I want to give a shout out to my very good friend who's actually going to, I don't know if I can tip my hand too much, but that is Jayrow Johnson. Jayrow is the man behind the Wrestling War Zone out there in Southern California, and they've been recruiting a whole bunch of talent. And he says, maybe this is digged at you. I'm definitely looking at talents there in the UK. Great talent there. I mean, would you like to travel abroad? Would you like to wrestle in places? Because Jayrow is an up-and-coming promoter, and anything you might want to say to some promoters out there?
I'll go anywhere. I mean, I'll wrestle anywhere. I love wrestling. I'll go anywhere for it. If it means I get to travel abroad and go explore some places away from the UK, then so be it. Let's do it.
Well, Jayrow, I want you to follow Nonstop Action Wrestling on Facebook, NSAW Wrestling UK on Instagram, NSAW_UK on Twitter. I want you to follow also UKW.TV on Instagram, where you can see all the UKW footage. I also want you to follow Blackheart Wrestling UK, where you can see Jayrow Lewis as well, and find out some talent like Jayrow Lewis, who's been, by the way, a former World Heavyweight Champion, a World Tag Team Champion. So make sure you go out there and support him. Before I get to Uncle Ralph, because Uncle Ralph has got a lot to say to you, let me get to some more comments. Let me try to work everybody in here. So I have a Tommy Dillon question, but I'll come back to that in a second. Young Horace says, Jayrow was a huge inspiration to me when I stepped into UKW. To see the top guy at the time, who was someone my size, changed what I had been convinced was possible and really motivated me to believe in myself. Being able to share a ring with him and even beat him on one occasion has been a huge honor. When you hear a comment like that from somebody like a Young Horace, who's kind of up the ladder, he's moving very nicely, he's kind of hung with it, he's had a lot of matches, and he's been kind of one of those underdogs you kind of want to root for. I mean, what does that mean to you, though, on a larger scale when you hear a comment like this?
I mean, thank you, Horace. I mean, I love working with you too. I mean, I love dancing, and like I say, we need that one more match just to settle the score. But I mean, he's on the up. I mean, Horace is on a roll himself. I mean, he's doing waves at NSAW. I mean, UKW, he's picking it up as well. I mean, he started out with a long losing streak.
I know. We had him on here in the midst of the losing streak, and it was almost like the comments were like, well, are you ever going to win a match? And I almost referenced, I think it was Heath Slater years ago that had the long losing streak. Then it was at the time Kurt Hawkins, who's now by his real name. And then famously back in the 90s, it was Barry Horowitz. Barry Horowitz had a massive losing streak, and then he finally won a few matches. But you can no longer say that, so give him a lot of credit. And I think also in a larger way, you are an inspiration, because when you do think about wrestling, it's always everybody thinks the big man, but everybody thinks Joe Cobra, everybody thinks Disciple, everybody thinks Gareth Angel, everybody thinks who else, fill in the blanks. But you've been a world champion, you've been a tag team champion. In a lot of ways, I think that there's a lot of wrestlers that might look to you that are especially an up-and-comer, let's say a Young Horace, a Connor Cage, and anybody else. Say, you know what, if Jayrow can do it, Jayrow's been a main eventer, I can do it. Do you feel a responsibility in that way?
I mean, I won't say it's a responsibility. I mean, I've proved that a guy my size can do it. I mean, I'm not... Wrestling's can be a long career, it can be a short career. I don't know how long I'm going to go for. I mean, I've been doing it 6 years now. And the thing is, I'm still going. I'm still going strong.
Hey,
And
you know what?
I've
6 years
had some
is a
big
while in
guys.
wrestling. Yeah, listen, 6 years is definitely a long time in the world of professional wrestling. Let me try to get to some more comments before I do get to Uncle Ralph. Michael Knoll says here, I do want to find a way. I really do, but the amount of money I have and seeing someone as much as I love the sport of wrestling, I also want to keep my happiness with the lady friend. Okay, I understand. So I choose her. I feel bad to let them down, especially Tommy, considering it's to honor his wife, which makes me feel worse about it, but only so much I can do. And don't worry, Michael. We know you support, and we thank you just for even being here with us.
Yep.
Taylor Truth says CCW is welcome and open for any talent. And I saw Dan Robertson is entering the Colory Rumble coming up on the 28th of January. So maybe James Barris, the owner of the company, might want to take a look at that. Connor Cage says definitely going to tear the house down. Absolutely agree. Liam Ledger says here, I thought Steve was the weapon, not Staffy. LOL. All right, thank you, Liam, for that.
Thank you, Liam.
Is there an inside joke there with that I'm missing?
No, Staffy's got a mind of her own, and sometimes she likes to fight other people. It's just a thing. It's a thing. Which one's the weapon, Steve or Staffy? It's just a thing.
All right. Well,
it is an inside joke.
I figured that, and I was like, let me just throw it out there anyway. Rex, Big Duncan says Rex is a fill in the blanks. I can't really say that the comment here. Also, want to give a shout out to Jayrow. Jayrow says he's definitely keeping an eye on you. Also, before I get to Tommy Dillon and Uncle Ralph, I want to give a big shout out to Pride. Of course, Pride we saw in the GT Ministries documentary. We've seen him also become a staple in Nonstop Action Wrestling, and he gives you advice because Pride has seen the guys up close in GTM. Pride would avoid anything within Fallout area of the Mafia versus Mafia, purely out of self-preservation. Is that something you would take into consideration from what Pride has to say? Give me your thoughts.
It's going to be a war. I mean, it's Mafia versus Mafia. It's not going to be pretty. I mean, we are going to fight all over. I mean, who's to say it's going to stay in the ring? I mean, it could go anywhere. I mean, it's not going to be technical. It's going to be a fight. That's what mafias do. We fight for honor. We fight for, the pride of being a mafia. It's what it is. Well, I mean, it's going to be a fight.
Well, I'll tell you this much, Jayrow. I wouldn't certainly tip my hand. I wouldn't say what you're going to do to the modern day mafia because we know Uncle Ralph is here. I wouldn't say anything that's going to incriminate you. I would definitely say whatever you're going to do, definitely keep it to yourself because somebody will use it to their advantages for sure. That's certainly what we'll figure out here. Also, let me get to Tommy Dillon here before I get to Uncle Ralph. I feel bad. I love Uncle Ralph, but Tommy Dillon's got a really good question for you. Question: after becoming a Grand Slam champion in UKW, what is your main goal at the moment? That's a great question. What is your main goal?
Well, I mean, I lost the tag team titles under such bad circumstances because Steve decided mid-match to go do his own thing at UKW. I mean, everywhere else we are still the playtime mafia. But
I know it's kind of like that's bizarre because you and him have actually been in the ring against each other, but everywhere else it's like almost like the Saved by the Bell Zach Morris third wall, and he used to famously kind of say timeout. It's almost like timeout everywhere else, but yet in UKW you guys are not on the same page right now.
I mean, Steve wanted to go for singles gold. I mean, I can't blame him. I've been there when I've wanted the main gold. I mean, I can't really blame him. I mean, he's a young lad. He's got a hell of a career ahead of him. I mean, maybe he jumped the gun. Maybe one day back at UKW we will team again. But for now, we're just going our own separate ways. Everywhere else, though, we've still got to find a way to make our name, and that's what we're planning to do.
So it'd be safe to say if you were in that same spot, you'd do the same then, correct?
I probably would. Yeah, not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie.
Listen, I gotta ask you because you know what? If the shoe was on the other foot, that could certainly be a question I think people would want to hear. And Uncle Ralph is here, and I'm sure you saw Uncle Ralph in the back and forth when I made the announcement here yesterday. And obviously, Uncle Ralph is a huge part of things with the modern day mafia. And I mean, anything you might want to say to Uncle Ralph to might relay to the guys, or anything in general, and anything on your mind you might want to throw at him.
You know how dangerous you guys are. Let's see how dangerous they are after February 4th. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I can say. Like I said, joke over Dave Douglas. They're dangerous guys. It's going to be a fight. And Uncle Ralph, if you've got some tricks up your sleeve, then I guess I'll have to do so. But I mean, I keep my cards close to my chest. Who's to say I haven't got more people in the mafia? in my own mafia.
You know what? I hadn't thought about that because I had asked that question. I'm sure you heard at the end of the show. And is there more people out there in the mafia? And it was almost kind of a question that when I asked it, it was almost as if Joel and Uncle Ralph had played it close to the vest. So almost in a way, I have to ask you: could there be more out there in the playtime mafia? I mean, you guys have actually been the ones that have had more success than the modern day mafia. Maybe it should be yours truly that should be asking you: are there more of you guys out there?
It could very well be. I mean, again, cards close to the chest. I can't release anything right now, but there could be.
What do you make, though, of this whole thing about the Don? The Don was referenced quite a bit when it came to Joel when he was on, and you were mentioned as well. And I mean, what do you make of that? Is that something that you think is any worthwhile of a thought, or give me your thoughts?
I mean, it's something to think about. The Don is the Don for a reason. I mean, he runs the mafia. He must be. He must be a smart man. So I've got to think outside the box. I've got to think. I've got to think about everything else. I've got to think about the out. I've got to think about the impossible. I mean, I don't know who he is. It could be anyone. But the thing is,
Okay.
a Don is dangerous. So I mean, the
Well,
playtime
that's why
mafia
I brought it up
don't know.
because Well, that's why I brought it up, as we are here with pro wrestling star Jayrow Lewis, of course, a Grand Slam winner in UKW. Also, of course, one half of the Playtime Mafia, who you're going to see here on February the 4th in the Tommy Dillon Wrestling for Kirkwood show. He will be wrestling in a Mafia versus Mafia match against the modern day Mafia. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. And if you like what you hear from Jayrow Lewis, please like his page on Facebook. He's got nearly 1,000 followers. Also, follow him on Instagram at jayrow.lewis. Also, make sure to please support all the great companies like UKW, UKW TV on Instagram. Also, Blackheart Wrestling UK on Facebook and Instagram. Ensor Wrestling UK on Instagram. Nonstop Action Wrestling, Nonstop Action Wrestling Universe on Facebook as well. YouTube, Nonstop Action Wrestling. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I am the man behind Sportswire Radio. So let me get to here several more comments. I want to give a big shout out to the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenton from Wrestling Championship Entertainment, who, by the way, Nicholas has got a set of balls because I was watching a vlog that he was in Saturday over the weekend, and he was almost moving, I guess, and he was in the state of Wisconsin, which it's like super cold, and he was helping one of the people, I believe it was James Marshall, move out of his house in Medford, Wisconsin. And this guy had shorts on. I was like, what's this guy doing in like 0-degree weather with shorts on? And he's going to be our guest coming up this Saturday. So very, very excited to have on the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, one of my favorite guys on and off the air. He says, all someone needs is just a chance. Sometimes it is that one chance it takes to score. So could maybe here Jayrow hopefully delivers more for us than Harry Kane did in the World Cup. I believe that could be a strong possibility. I didn't want to bring that up, but I thought it was kind of a good translation for a home run to a goal in football. So I thought that would be a good way to do that.
That's bad.
I want to give a big shout out here to Jenny Hayes, of course, the rock idol. Of the
hey,
UK.
Jenny.
Jenny does the introductions in Nonstop Action Wrestling. She says, hey, Jester. And Jenny does a much better job than I do. And, of course, Jenny, I want to make the announcement, is going to be with us in the first week of February. Jenny's got some new stuff she's working on, and she's all over the place. I also want to give, if it's okay for me to say this, a big congratulations to Jenny because Jenny is now engaged. She is going to be married to Joshua Snow. And, of course, we see Mr. Snow in Nonstop Action Wrestling. He's the chairman there. So congratulations to you and Mr. Snow. And we hope that you have a wonderful life ahead, which I'm sure you will. And Jenny, we'll definitely get you back on. Very excited about that. Michael says, I won't say it's not happening, but it seems unlikely at this moment. Also, Nicholas Crenson says, actually, I wasn't there, somebody else. But I feel like I saw you in the video. There was a moving truck, and it felt like you were out there smoking a cigarette. You were in shorts. I'm pretty sure I saw it. So, but let me get to Uncle Ralph because Uncle Ralph has got a big question for you. I'm sure it is going to be a banging match. I'm impressed not just by the modern day Mafia size, but their athleticism and agility and technical skill. If I can harness this and combine it with fluency, there are exciting times ahead for the modern day Mafia. But I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second for you, Mr. Jayrow Lewis. Is he almost describing the Playtime Mafia and your athleticism, your agility, and your technical skill? Can I make that argument to you, my friend?
You could. I mean, like I say, I don't underestimate modern day mafia. I don't underestimate them at all. I know how good they are, and they are fluid. They are as good as people say they are. I mean, again, I'm very well aware what I'm going up against, and yeah, it could be said the same for me and Steve. I mean, one's dangerous and the other one can wrap you up, can tie you up like a pretzel. I mean, that's how it works. I mean, I know that both guys are big, but big guys, small guys, it's going to be fun. I mean, people are going to have to keep up. People are going to have to keep up with us. That's what it is. I mean,
I think there's a question about that. Let me ask you, though, a follow-up question in coming back to this match. And I'll talk UKW and nonstop action wrestling in a second because I know people want to hear some of that. And of course, we love those companies, especially Ensaw. But you're coming back here from an injury. You haven't been in the ring here in a while. And I had spoke to Joel conversely about this. And Joel had returned to the ring at the Colory Christmas Carol, of course, with Dave Douglas as a tag team partner. And they went out there against the working class militia and they were successful. I know that when you're coming back off an injury, there is certain things maybe you worry about, ring rust, different things like that. And going into a high profile match like this, where this is the first time you're in the ring here in a while, is there any nerves? Is there any concerns or anything else that comes to mind here in a situation like this?
a little bit. I mean, I've been out in the ring before. I mean, I've had to take up time before. I mean, not too long. I mean, I'm no stranger to this. But yeah, I mean, there is a little bit. I mean, I'm aware that damage could be done to me. I mean, it could really do some damage, but I'm aware of that, and I'm well aware of that going head forward into it. So I'm no fear. I'm a guy with no fear.
Well, fair enough, and I appreciate the answer there. And of course, I do want to give a shout out to Sportswire Radio because if you like what you hear from us on Facebook, I'd like to make sure everybody continues to follow us on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, and also 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our content on sportnarium.com/player, and also follow us on YouTube now at Sportswire Radio. Even though I don't promote it, Jayrow, we broke over 100 subscribers on YouTube, so I do appreciate that very much. Yeah, I don't really promote it. I don't really do anything on there, but I definitely appreciate all the support. And again, Thursday, 8 o'clock, we have a doubleheader. I've got Jenna and I've got Disciples. So, I mean, I don't know how I'm going to top. I don't know if I'm going to be alive afterwards, but we'll certainly hope that's the case. But thank everybody for tuning in. I do have a couple of comments here from Nicholas Crenton. That might have been a flashback when we first got in the ring. You know, I have to rewatch that, but I definitely did see you in shorts. That's all my point. We'll talk about it on Saturday's show, but he also makes a good point. Technical precision will always win a war. Do you feel like, in a way, when I would say objectively, looking at this match, obviously I'm having you for the first time. I know Joel Cobra very well. I've had him on for a few different times. I've watched him in GT Ministries. I've heard him in the broadcast booth. But if I were to say objectively that the strengths for the modern day Mafia would be their size, their physicality, but for you and Cerebral Steve, your strengths would be your experiences because you guys have the edge on that, but also the technical aspect. So is that kind of maybe where I'm making a fair point where the strengths from the modern day Mafia are physicality and size, and for you and Cerebral Steve, Playtime Mafia strengths are technical skills and agility?
Definitely, that's exactly what it's going to be. I mean, it just depends who's got more of what attribute, doesn't it? I mean, it's also unpredictability as well. I mean, even I sometimes don't know what Steve does. I don't know what he's thinking. Sometimes he just goes off in his own world and just starts kicking people. I mean, sometimes I have no control over him. So when it comes to putting strategies together and how we're going to wear his opponents down, no matter how big they are, sometimes it doesn't go. Sometimes it don't go to plan. So that's why I say it's going to be fun, because when I let him loose, anything could happen really. But for me, yeah, I mean, technique is where I go. Technique is my wheelhouse. That's where I go to. It's worked before. It's not worked before. So yeah, they are. And again, like you say, modern day Mafia, very physical guys, very big guys. I mean, they're dangerous, and we have to work with that. We have to work against that, and you know, like I say, we have to go in no fear, because if you do, if you go into a match with the modern day Mafia with fear, then you're screwed. You're screwed. There's no point even trying, because they've got you. You've just got to go.
And that was my point on the and you know, it's exactly why I made the point earlier about the mind games, and I talked about kind of the mental stuff here, and obviously I thought those were reasons why I thought that was a good question. Excellent answer. I do want to give a shout out to somebody that also is coming back to Sportswire on the 24th of January, and somebody that you have been in the ring with. And I actually think I spoke about this match with him, and that is, of course, the Cult of Killjoy, Mr. Dan Robertson. He says, "Onwards, Jayrow, going to be a hell of a war to watch. Respect from the Cult. And also, if you want to go round 3, hit me up whenever, wherever." Anything you want to say to the Cult of Killjoy, Dan Robertson?
I love Killjoy. I love him.
I like him. You know what? I like the
love
guy.
him.
There's something about him.
The thing is, at Blackheart, he's caught me out twice. He's beat me twice in a row. I mean, he got me. I mean, I can't. He's also another young up and comer who's he's going to make waves in 2023 and onwards. I mean, the Cult of Killjoy is getting stronger, and he's one of the few people who've actually caught me out and beat me fair and square. I mean, he's one of the few people, and again, I love him. I love the guy because he's smart, he's clever.
And you know what? You gotta give him. And you know what? You gotta give him credit because he got himself in the ring with Gareth Angel for 5 minutes. I mean, think about that for a second. Take a step back. Right here's somebody, and I know Michael Knowles is upset about this, but I mean, here's somebody that's been in the business for 15 minutes and got himself the ability to go up there and put himself in the ring in a face-to-face with Gareth Angel. Gareth Angel is the man right now. Well, he was the man before Disciple disposed of him. But the fact of the matter is, when you think about GT Ministries, that's Gareth Angel, and he was able to do what he did there. So you have to give him a lot of credit for that. And Jenny Hayes got a great question, and I think a great answer is ahead here. That is the question: will the Mafia win, or will the Mafia win? So she's basically saying, well, we're all going to say the Mafia is going to win, right? So we know for sure that a Mafia is going to win. I think Jenny. That's why Jenny's the rock idol of the UK. That's why she's internationally renowned. And Pride says the Mafia definitely has the Mafia beaten on speed. But should the Mafia get their hands on the Mafia shouldn't last long. However, both Mafias are incredible athletes with greater speed and power than their size should allow, both with more grit than sense. Well, that's an excellent poem there, and I think that Pride is onto something here, so I definitely agree with him on that. And also, Jenny says she thanks me for the kind words. And then Michael says, not the coward. So I think he disagrees, as I pointed out. But let me ask you, though, I want to come to Nonstop Action Wrestling for a second, because obviously Fatal Attraction is coming up. And I've seen you. You've battled Tommy Dillon there, I believe, as well. I've seen you wrestle several different people there, and we see some different developments there. We have a Northern Division Championship that's been crowned. I believe also Tag Team Championships are on the way in Nonstop Action Wrestling. I mean, what are your goals coming up here for Nonstop Action Wrestling, and especially, let's say, with Fatal Attraction coming up, which is the week after the Tommy Dillon Wrestling for Kirkwood show?
Well, at the moment, not with Nonstop Action Wrestling, me and Steve have had a bit of a problem with the Swarm.
Yep. We know them very well. Yep. Dante O'Cara, JPR, sure. Yep.
And they've also added, I believe, Drac and James Westney to their ranks as well, because that's who we faced at the last show at Nuclear Winter. And they got the better of us. I mean, I'm not going to lie, but before that, we got them. It's 1-1, and I think we need to settle a score. Us on the Swarm. I think that's the way it needs to be. But then after that, let's see what happens. I mean, if the stars align that me and Steve to go for tag team gold, so be it. If it is that we both go for singles gold, the business is a business. It is what it is. It's what the fans want, I suppose, isn't it?
Well, I mean, let me ask you then a question, because you bring up some interesting things here, and I'll come back to Uncle Ralph in a second. It's a more general point that Uncle Ralph has, but we see here new titles are developing in Nonstop Action Wrestling. We see that Supersonic Sammy Blue holds the Northern Division Championship, and now the tag team titles are on the way here. I mean, you've been a Grand Slam winner in UKW. You're one of the few people that can say, hey, I've been an around-the-clock champion, I've been a world champion, I've been a tag team champion. So you've done all of that. Do you feel like, hey, automatically at the top coming up here for goals of 2023, it's got to be, you know what, for Jayrow, it should be, you know what, I should be holding not just gold in NSOA, but maybe multiple titles, because you've done it already in one promotion, so why not you in this promotion? What's your thoughts on that?
Why not? And I mean, the thing is, like, when it comes to goals, I don't set myself many, because then when I achieve something, it's a bonus. And I do look forward to what I could achieve, But I just go with what the stars align. If I am to go for multiple titles, I'll go for multiple titles. I will fight. I'm a fighter. I'm a prize fighter. I like fighting for gold, so I'll do it. I mean, we just need to see how the stars align, don't we?
All right, but you said something interesting that you gave a different answer that I'm used to getting because I always ask this question to different wrestlers. I've been doing this for 4 years, and I ask every year I go on the aisle, I ask a wrestler, "Hey, what's your goals coming up?" And hey, and you gave a different answer when it came to that point on goal. You're like, you know what? I'm a fighter. I go out there. I don't think about it. Where certain people I'll have on, they'll say, you know what, Tom, I have to have a championship. Yes, it's on the horizon. It's on the mind. You gave a different answer here, and I do have a bunch of comments here. Let me try to get to Uncle Ralph first. I will get a close up of Killjoy at the CCW Rumble as he's entered the next Rumble. Yep, and we'll talk about that with Killjoy himself on the 24th, and I'll ask Taylor Troots that question as well, and I'll also have on the CCW World Champion on Tuesday in the spot that Jayrow's in. That is, of course, Hybrid. So I'll ask Hybrid his thoughts on that as well. And Big Duncan's got a question for you. Can you fly?
Yes, Dunk, I can fly, and you know I can fly.
Okay, all right. So that's an obvious one, but you did mention somebody that you just crossed paths with, and I want to bring them up because they are a part of Nonstop Action Wrestling, and that is one of the more newer members of the Swarm. That is James Westney. James says, "I can't wait to step in the ring with you again, Jayrow." Is that maybe a declaration? Is that something that you want to consider? I mean, what do you think about what James Westney has to say here?
The thing is, I've known James Westney for quite a while, and we've never crossed paths. We've never, apart from Nuclear Winter, we've never really crossed paths. And you know what? Yeah, I'd love to have a one-on-one with James Westney. I would. I mean, it's been a long time coming because we've actually talked about it before. Because before he joined the Swarm, we actually were all right, but then he joined the Swarm because I don't know, JPR is quite the spokesman. I don't know, maybe that's what it is, but I'd love to.
So, are you saying almost in a way, because I have to come back to JPR, because you said something interesting here about JPR and Nonstop Action Wrestling. Are you saying almost that JPR has control on the mind of a James Westney, and that's why James Westney made the decision that he made? I mean, you know him.
I mean,
Did you?
maybe he just wanted something new, and the Swarm came calling. I don't know. I ain't really seen or spoke to him since Nuclear Winter, since he kneed me in the back of the head and eliminated me from the match. So, yeah, I mean,
So you thought, but my point is that you thought you knew him, though.
Thought I did, but quite
I
clearly
guess it's not the case. I guess that going up with him, training, talking about having a match with him with James Westney, it almost seems to me as if that's all thrown out the window.
it seems to be the case, doesn't it? I mean, people change in wrestling. I mean, alliances change, and you go with what you think's the best for you, and that's obviously what James Westney's done. I mean, it's not the route I'd have taken, so now we have a problem, I guess. And NSAW is the place that we're going to have to settle it at some point. So, yeah, Westney, I'd love to step in the ring with you again, definitely.
But there's a point that you made, and again, we're speaking here with pro wrestling star, Grand Slam winner in UKW wrestling here, Jayrow Lewis, for a little while. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryson. Thank everybody here for tuning in on Sportswire Radio. But there was a point that you made at the beginning of the show where you talked about you've been in the business for a while, you've been here 6 years, you've gained experience, and almost in a way, there's a certain, I don't want to say etiquette, but you've come across a certain way that you've become a veteran, right? And the way that James Westney, from what happened at Nuclear Winter and the way that you describe things, sounds like he took maybe the cheap route. He took a different route that maybe you would have done as an in-ring veteran, as somebody that has had the success that you had. I mean, is that a fair assessment to say that, you know what, as a veteran, that's a disappointing move that James Westney made, and whether it was on you or not, or if it was somebody else, it's still a move that speaks maybe to just disappointment. You've become now one of the more veterans in that company.
I mean, like I say, wrestlers have got to stick to what they think's going to make them stronger and make them, get to the top. And if Westney's chosen the Swarm, then it is what it is. I mean, again, like you say, I thought I knew him, but quite clearly not. And I mean, again, just remembering the knee to the back of the head from Mr. Westney.
I know it's been a while. Unfortunately, it's been about a month or so, and I know it's certainly, it's certainly something that you weren't hoping for, and certainly wasn't the path that you thought that Mr. Westney was going to take him. I wanted to ask you a general question on Nonstop Action Wrestling because you've obviously been a part of the company here for quite a while here. I know not to maybe the same degree as some others that have come on Sportswire Radio, but what is your general impressions in wrestling and Nonstop Action Wrestling? And talk to me about your thoughts in being a part of the company here for the past several months.
There's a lot of talent. I mean, there's a lot of up and coming talent, and it's nice to see. And I'm actually looking forward to working with a lot of the other talents. I mean, I've only stepped in the ring with people like Sammy Blue, and actually Sammy Blue and Champ Rogers I faced at Blackheart.
Yep.
Connor Cage is another one from NSAW. Kyle Kennedy, the lawman, of course.
Well, he's a favorite of mine, the lawman, Kyle Kennedy.
Oh, he's a big fan of yours. I know that.
I'm a big fan of his, actually. So
he's a funny guy. He's a funny guy. We've only had a brief interaction.
I would tread very lightly when it comes to speaking about the lawman. The lawman certainly he's a very interesting individual. I would definitely tread lightly if you were going to say anything to him. Yeah. He's lurking. As he always says, the society is everywhere. So somewhere the lawman Kyle Kennedy is somewhere right now.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. But again, me and the society are not strangers either. I mean,
I understand that. I'm aware of. You guys certainly have an interesting history, kind of a very, very interesting history. I'm sure that Mr. Kennedy will speak about here on the 25th of January. But I wanted to come back to Supersonic Sammy Blue for a second because you've been in the ring with him. He won the company's first ever Northern Division Championship. He's the current champion. I know he's kind of in a war of words here with the Irish Wonder Chris Murphy, who's a multiple champion in his own right. And would that be somebody that you would want to crack at it again? And should he be able to keep his championship here in the next several weeks and months? I mean, is there something that you maybe see in Sammy Blue or maybe something that you want to see in him as to why maybe, I want another crack at him? And I asked you the question about Gold because obviously you've been a Grand Slam winner and he's the current champion and you have a history with him. So would you want maybe a crack at his title should he hang on to that title here in the next several weeks?
Definitely won't mind that. I won't mind stepping in the ring with Sammy Blue again. Definitely not. So, and if there's Gold on the line, even better. Yeah, I'd love that. I would love that. I mean, I know Sammy's going to be a fighting champ. He's going to be a fighting champ. I mean, he's a small guy like me, and he gets the job done. I mean, I can't. He did it against me. I mean, he beat me. My first match at NSAW, I think he beat me.
Well, that's why I said, would you want another crack at him? In fact, that was one of the, on and off the record. One of the matches I believe I spoke with Sammy, and I'm pretty sure this was off the record, actually. So I'm going to say something which I know is not going to incriminate anybody, but I was impressed with what Sammy was able to do in that match against someone like you to have a victory like that. Because, that was a big upset at the time. Sammy Blue was just kind of getting his teeth in. Yes, he was kind of building his name up. You've seen him evolve over the past several months, but you're a former world champion. And that was a big deal at that. And I kind of think in a lot of ways, even though Sammy Blue had the win in GT Ministries over Remus Kane, who's going to be on next week, and I know Mr. Kane's going to have something to say about that as well. But I mean, that in a way, I think put Supersonic Sammy Blue on the map really because of you. I mean, so you've got to kind of want rematch on the mind and payback maybe even, no?
Maybe down the line. I mean, I like what Sammy's doing at the minute, so okay. I'll let him do what he needs to do for now. But maybe down the line. I won't say no.
I'll tell you what, that's fair, because everybody hears something that somebody says here in Sportswire. But I did want to come back to UKW for a second because obviously you've been a world champion there, you've been a Grand Slam winner, and I always like to ask the general question, especially to somebody that was a world champion. I mean, what was that like being the UKW heavyweight champion? I mean, I'm so fascinated when I speak to a former world champion like yourself. And I mean, what was that like to have a responsibility for a company like UKW and be the world champion? Talk to me about that moment and what that experience was like in being the company's champion.
The thing is, like, I remember when the 3 count went down and actually the bell rang. I kind of just sat there and went, that didn't just happen. Like, it were, I actually couldn't believe it. It just happened, like. And then it wasn't until I think I might have shared it on social media at some point. The referee actually draped it across the shoulder and actually fell because title belts are heavy. I actually fell down with it.
Wow.
So, like,
okay.
Wow. oh, you see my hands, like, what is this? And then that's when it kicked in, like, oh, I've done it. Like, I've beat the boss for the main gold at the biggest show of the year. It's, I did it. I'm top of the mountain. I mean, at the time, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of insufferable. I mean, I had a chip on my shoulder going into the match itself, so the crowd weren't exactly on my side, but it was a big achievement. And like as time went on, the crowd, I guess, appreciated what I did because now they love me over there, I guess. But yeah, at the time, it didn't really kick in until I like held it up and it was like, oh, this is it. This is the big one. Like, and it wasn't until I got to the back and everyone was coming up to me and congratulating me and stuff like that. And we were like, wow, this is it. This is the big time. So, and then after that, I mean, I wanted to be a fighting champ. So I said I'd face everyone. And my first defense was actually against wildcard Tommy Dillon and Rex Savage in a triple threat match, which I got out of that very, very, very close to the ring because Rex Savage is a dangerous guy and Tommy Dillon always puts up a hell of a fight. Then, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of pressure, like carrying the main gold. I mean, like I say, I fought everyone and anyone for it, and eventually, Jonathan Sedgwick took the title back from me in a ladder match, and that's how it went. And ever since, and then I thought, after that, that's when I thought, there's only one thing I haven't done, and that's become a tag team champion. And then I went on a year with a cerebral stay, and as the rest of the say's history. I mean, it was one of them things. As soon as I wasn't the heavyweight champion anymore, it was like, okay, so what's next? What else can I do now? And that's where it led me.
Let me ask you a question. It's kind of a follow because you said a number of different interesting things, and I always think it's so curious because you win the world title. And was it cracked up to be what it was? Was it more? Was it less? I mean, what was that like in terms of how you envisioned being the world champion?
I mean, the pressure were real. I mean, yeah, I mean, the respect you gain from being able to get to the top, it changed a little bit, and people saw me in a different light, especially in the back. But as time went on, like I say, I had a chip on my shoulder at the time, and I guess my attitude changed as I lost the title. I became more humble, and that's when, it kind of put me in a little bit of a rut because again I was trying to fight everybody, but I wasn't always doing it in the right ways, if you know what I mean. I mean, I'm not a stranger to taking shortcuts when needed. I mean, again, I'm a little guy, so I'll do what I can to get the win. But as the smoke cleared and I realised that rain was gone, I mean, yeah, I mean, I thought, could I do it again? Possibly, see what happens down the line. But then I thought, what haven't I done yet? And then that's when I led to the tag team title run.
And you certainly followed it up, but I mean, in a way, do you feel that maybe you had a lot of pressure and it was hard to live up to that? Because again, the UKW World Championship is a big deal. It's not just like winning the Mickey Mouse Championship, or I have a little plastic belt on top of me. It's not like just buying a belt at a toy store and being a champ. This is a big responsibility. UKW is a weekly show, and that's a big deal. You could be defending the title at any given time. Do you feel like in a lot of ways that it was a lot of pressure, maybe that it was more than you anticipated? And you see this all the time in wrestling. Sometimes a wrestler gets the world title and it's just different things, and it's hard. It's a lot. I mean, do you feel that maybe was maybe led to what you went through as a champion? I mean, give me your thoughts on that.
I mean, definitely. I mean, like I say, it's a lot of pressure, and it pressure it either makes you or breaks you. I mean, like you say, some people it does break them. I mean, it. I think it did break me a little bit because, like I say, I had to reevaluate what I was doing, and then that's when I decided to go on the tag team route. So, I mean, it's a weird thing because whilst you're in that moment and you are the champion, you don't realize how bad the pressure is until you're in the situation where you're defending that belt, and you're like, oh, I have to pull something out here to keep this now and keep it going. And that's really where the pressure is. Like when you're in the ring, like afterwards, when you are it's like you've already done the job. So you can call yourself the champion and be proud of it. But definitely in the ring, because when you're the top guy, you've got to pull that little bit extra out to keep the gold. I mean,
yeah, and I would think it would still be a lot of responsibilities, and it's not easy. Listen, you're now the top guy. Everybody, and I said this, I think, with one wrestler not too long ago, and I forget who it was. It might have been either it was C2K or it was somebody else that came on last week on Sportswire Radio. And I think the point I had made is that sometimes when you're getting to the top, it's easy, right? Because you're going to the top, you're getting there, or maybe it happens unexpectedly. But then when you get there, it almost, you learn maybe in some ways who are your friends and who are not your friends. And in a lot of ways, when you're in wrestling, you might not have the friends that you had, or you might be perceived to be a certain way. And it's like very difficult to hold that title and to hold those responsibilities. But I have some more comments here. So let me get to some more comments because people seem to like my questions to you. So here's a good question from Michael. If you could fight anyone, be it American or British, or maybe Canadian, Japanese, Mexican, right? Because there's other places too. They have great talent. Who would it be and why? But if there's anybody you could fight, who would you like to fight? That's a great question.
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, as a wrestler, you get so many dream scenarios in your head of who he could face over. I mean, growing up as a wrestling fan, you mean like I were a big fan of like Stone Cold, The Rock, and stuff like that. I mean, at the moment, I'd love to face someone like Bryan Danielson or. I mean,
the Ronin Bryan. You watch Sportswire shows because when you said the Ronin Bryan Adenson, I'm like, wow. You know what? I could certainly let Mr. Adenson know this one. We'll certainly let him know on social media. I mean, that's an excellent answer there, boy. You really know the audience on Sportswire. Wow, I didn't expect that one coming.
Well, I mean, it's a dream match. I mean, everyone knows who Bryan Danielson is, and everyone would love to face him. And he's just. The thing is, when I first saw him, I thought, oh, he's a little guy. He's, when he first started in WWE, it's like, oh, he's a little guy who can actually hurt people. This is actually quite interesting. And I mean, he's kind of an inspiration to me because, again, little guy who fought through injury, fought through the pain, and fought through all the concussions and came
world
back
champion, yep, world champion like you were, yep, definitely.
Exactly. And he's my inspiration, like when it going forward in the business, because I mean, he's done it all, he's done everything, and he's still going strong. I mean. He's had a hell of a career, hasn't he? So, I mean, he's probably a dream.
And you know what? And he's dealt with some injuries. He's dealt with that. He's dealt with kind of retiring, unretiring. There was a period there, I want to say, for at least like 3 years that the WWE he couldn't wrestle in, and then he's now wrestling in other places. And you look at his journey, how he became a world champion. And I have a couple of more questions to follow up on that. Kind of the same question here before I get to a future guest coming on who I think heard the bat signal. Who's on your bucket list of people you want to wrestle? Same question, but anybody else other than Bryan Danielson? I mean, you said Stone Cold, The Rock. Anybody else? Anybody locally, by the way? Anyone locally?
Locally. I mean, it's hard to think because it's hard to remember who I haven't faced really. I mean, I'd love to go again with the Society. I mean, unfinished business there. I mean, I know.
Why?
I mean, they've got a new member now, Callum Majakester,
Yes.
Majakester, whatever you want to call him. I mean, very, very little interaction. Love to get to know him a little bit better in the ring. There's a couple of people. I mean, there's a guy over at UKW called the Yorkshireman. I mean, I've never actually faced him. I've never actually faced him one-on-one, and I'd love to get in the ring because he's a big guy as well, and I like facing big guys. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the bigger they are to the fall, and that's the way I like to fight.
Before I have a few comments to follow up on that, but the back signal is out. But can I add a few different names that you may not be familiar with? I think somebody that you'd have a great match with would be Eitan Steen. If you haven't wrestled Eitan Steen, Steen's in the LWF Bolton Town. I think that would be a phenomenal match. I think that you and Eitan could do some really good stuff. I also want to give a shout out to one of my guys that comes on regularly, Wildfire Nate Reese. I'm sure you might be familiar with him. Veteran, been around a long time. LWF, Odyssey Pro Wrestling. And I have one that's an obvious one. You probably cross paths with him somewhere. Jack Johnson. I think you and Jack Johnson would be a great match.
I've not actually crossed paths with Jack Johnson yet, but I've seen his work, and yeah, I think we'd have a pretty cool match.
That would be a match. He's the Bolton Town Wrestling Champion, former GT Ministries champ. I think you and Jack Johnson something because I rewatched Jack Johnson's both his matches with Jenna, and I'm like, you know what, that would be one I would come to mind with. But let me get to a couple of people here first that may want to match with you, or may have the power to give you a match because the bat signal is out. The Lawman Kyle Kennedy, by the way, our guest coming up here on January the 25th, 8 o'clock, and he'll be in your chair. Yep. So he says, cough, cough. I mean, when it comes to people that you might want to match with or may want to be in the ring with,
Being in the ring with him before, but you know what? One-on-one, Kyle Kennedy, definitely. I would definitely like to give this a go because I've seen how dangerous he is. I've seen how dangerous he is, and I think that would be fun too. I mean, yeah, Lawman, if you can somehow, do your business, see what you can do. I mean, you seem to have some sort of sway at NSAW, so are you and the society seem to have some sort of thing
Well,
going with?
I don't know if I'd say they have full sway because they've had an interesting relationship with management. It's just MX Knight. I wouldn't say that the rest of management certainly are fans of the society to kind of play devil's advocate there for a bit. I wouldn't necessarily say that they have full authority there. But I have somebody else here from Blackheart Wrestling who you might know, and they have actually the answer for you. I know one match you want.
Oh, I love Lawrence. I love Lawrence. He's one of my oldest and dearest friends in the world. I love Lawrence. He's actually co-owner of Black Hat Wrestling. Actually.
I'm well aware. Well, that's why I think if you heard what I just said, Blackheart Wrestling, and I want to give a big shout out to Blackheart Wrestling. I want everybody to follow Blackheart at
Definitely.
Blackheart Wrestling UK on Instagram and Facebook. And before we get to closing thoughts, I wanted to actually ask you on Blackheart Wrestling. And we've asked so many wrestlers, and so many of them from NSAW are in Blackheart Wrestling, and some are from UKW as well. And Blackheart, and of course, Shelby Sinard does the ring introductions there, and she's on the call also for UKW shows. We've had her on here in the past. And what has made, in your opinion, Blackheart Wrestling such a special place where so many wrestlers love to wrestle there?
I mean, the thing is, the locker room at Black Hat Wrestling is full of young, hungry talent. I mean, all we want to do is put on a show for the audience. I mean, Guiseley, where Black Hat's based, is a lovely place to work. They're always a good audience, and I don't know. We appreciate it. We appreciate the work there for some reason. I mean, the atmosphere is always good. I mean, no matter who you've got in the ring, you always seem to have fun at Black Hat. It's always a good show. It's always a good atmosphere. It's always a good feel to it. I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's like an energy to it.
All right, well, that's certainly why I hope that it continues. And of course, we love Blackheart Wrestling, and they'll have a lot of shows here. And Pride actually has a question for you. So I got to get to Pride because
Go for it.
Pride wants to talk to you. Pride would love to see Jayrow versus Rarebit, an easily distracted powerhouse versus a man who has a penchant for distraction and talent out the pores. That's a good one because Rarebit obviously was the Bolton Town Wrestling World Champion. He has been a staple of things in GT Ministries and other companies. I mean, what do you think about a match like that? That's a good one. I hadn't thought about that, Pride. That's a good one. Rarebit and Jayrow. What do you think about something like that?
I mean, I've been in the ring with some dangerous guys, but Rarebit is a different kettle of fish. I mean,
no, he's very different.
He's done some damage so far.
Rarebit's he's like even the Disciple said on the air, like Rarebit's out there. He's
well
really out there.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Rarebit. I've watched Rarebit for a while, and he's one of the few people I've watched in the ring and thought, okay, he might be a problem. Like, again, I've faced big guys, but he looks dangerous. Like, I'm very, very surprised that he hasn't just taken all the gold. I mean, he has that capability. I mean, he's a big guy, and I mean, while I'm well aware that he's dangerous, I mean, I'd love to face him. I'd love to get in the ring with him, see what I could do. Like I say, the bigger they are, the harder the fall. But I also, like I say, no fear. I like to fight.
No, you know what? And that would be a guy again that he obviously could still hold gold in GT Ministries because he's kind of holds their form of the Money in the Bank there as he had won their ladder match a few months back, and he was the Bolton Town Wrestling Champion. And I've seen him in wars with the likes of Bentley. He was going to, I'm sure, be back here one day on Sportswire. But, I mean, certainly that would be an intriguing match. And the Lawman Kyle Kennedy also wants to say to you, legit, no strings, no hard feelings. You're absolutely on my bucket list. Would be an honor going one-on-one with you.
I respect Kyle Kennedy. I do. I'm not going to lie. I do. I mean, I saw him come in. I saw him when he first came in. I saw him and I thought, he's got something, this lad. And ever since then, he's got better. He's got better and better. And I do respect Kyle Kennedy. Don't really like the association with the society, but we've all got to start somewhere, I guess.
I like him. I gotta be honest. I like how he moves in the ring. He's got some spunk. He speaks well. I mean, he moves in the ring very well for a guy his size, and I also got to throw it out there. I hope he's okay with me saying this. He's like the vlog man. I mean, the Lawman Kyle Kennedy's like the master of the vlogs. I
He is
mean,
the vlog man.
have you gotten into the vlogs? I mean, do you want to be a vlog? Because I think you might be in one of the vlogs he did on a training session. I think you're in one.
I think maybe one or two, maybe a blackout one. I'm not too sure, but I think I've been in one or two. But yeah, I do love the vlog man. I do love him.
He's awesome, and make sure you follow the Lawman Kyle Kennedy, Mr. Justice Kyle Kennedy on Instagram, the Lawman K Kennedy on Twitter, also Facebook, the Lawman Kyle Kennedy, also YouTube out there, and he also says feelings mutual, and he also, I think I probably tipped the hand too much. He said, "What's that vlog?" So I think that's
we all know, Mr. Kennedy. We all know.
The master, yeah. Well, I think I've said too much. All right, so you know what? I know you're a busy man. You've got a lot on your plate. I appreciate the opportunity. So I want to ask you one more question. Well, two more questions. So
Okay.
two more questions before closing thoughts. First is, if there's one or two moments in your career that stand out most so far, what are they?
That'll be probably when I won my first championship at UKW, which was the Academy Championship.
Okay.
And, you see, the thing is, the tag team titles and the UKW heavyweight titles, they're kind of the same feeling, because when I became obviously heavyweight champion, it was my own achievement. But when me and Steve became the tag team champions, it was like our achievement, because while I can't take credit for how good Steve's become, like, I want to say that I was there for him when he first started out, and that's why we aligned with each other to become tag team champions. So I like the thing is, I make a joke to Steve about calling him my young lion, you know, like the New Japan reference, because I helped him when he was first starting out, and I didn't realise how dangerous he'd become, to be fair. I mean, even I couldn't have predicted that, but I just wanted to help him out when he first started, and look where we are now, you know. And that's why, to me, that's probably one of, like I say, it's the Academy Championship, and like I say, it's a tie between the heavyweight and the tag titles, because they both mean so much, but for different reasons, if you know what I mean. Like, it's a bit of an hard one to answer, but definitely the Academy title was the first one. Definitely, like my first championship in wrestling, like that were out of nowhere, because I wasn't expecting to become a contender when I actually beat Cayman Carlisle. I don't know if you've heard of him before.
Yes, I actually did see that on social media. Yes, I did. I see that.
I actually beat him to become the number one contender to go for the title.
He's a guy I'm pretty sure on Sportswire, he's been referenced by a few different wrestlers, so that's a name that we've definitely heard here. And I have a couple of different comments here. First, people, listen, I'll throw them out there. Big Duncan says, well-deserved tag champs, best match I've had. That's his thought. And Big Duncan is somebody that I'm going to get on Sportswire soon. Right? There's a bucket list of people. So
you would enjoy an interview with Big Duncan. You would.
Listen, there's a lot of people right now at this point I have to get to, and at this point it probably means that I'm going to have to keep continuing messaging people, which is always a good thing. This individual, who I know is somebody who wrestled, I'm going to have on here at some point, says, bring back Maureen. What's the Maureen reference there? Give me the Maureen reference for those that are listening here live.
Back in the day, I was part of a tag team called the Trio of Tricksters with a guy called Alec Michaels, and our entity was...
Did you say Owen Michaels?
Alec Michaels.
Oh, okay, because I know an Owen Michaels that we had on a couple of different times. Yeah, he's an Irish guy, though, but yeah, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, we were called the Trio of Tricksters, and to make up the trio was our entity Maureen, who was our 98-year-old saviour, who, well, she was invisible, which was quite funny. So Chris, I would love to bring back Maureen. You know I would. But Alex disappeared, so what can I do? It's up Maureen with him. I don't know where he's going.
I guess it would be fair to say I could ask this individual about that a little more in-depthly when he comes on here in a few weeks. I believe that would be January the 30th, if I'm not mistaken.
Look, I'm looking forward to that one then.
He can fact check me on that, but we'll make sure that Big Duncan's got a question for you. So listen, I mean, I won't get to my last question because somebody else wants to speak with you. Question: what's your favorite weapon shot you've taken? Boy, that's a tough one. That hurts. That question. That's a painful question.
It is. I mean, I remember in UKW we were in a tornado tag team match where we had a lot of weapons, but I know what Big Duncan's referencing, and he's referencing when we actually worked for another company called TNT Explosive, which is based
Yes.
in Yorkshire.
Yep, I know too.
He's talking about the wet floor sign he used on my back.
Oof.
A wet floor sign, yes, and it wasn't in. It was in quite a few pieces once he'd finished with it, and yeah, that's what he's referencing right there. And that's what Big Duncan wants me to say. So that's the answer I'm giving. The wet floor sign.
Well, that hurts. I mean, that certainly
Yes,
hurts.
it hurt.
I guess I wasn't going to ask you that much of a painful question, but that certainly sounds a lot more painful than when I had a root canal 4 years ago, and that was painful. But that
Yeah.
sounds a lot more painful. So
Yeah.
and the individual I just referenced, my crack staff has confirmed to me he is coming on January the 30th around 7:30.
I'm looking forward to that. Then I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to
that's
that.
a good one.
I love
In
this.
fact, this individual called out the Sportswire page and was like, "How do I get an interview on here?" and didn't realize that I'm the man behind it. But that's okay. He hit me first. That was Big Duncan's line.
I did hit him first with it, to be fair, but it only broke in half when I hit with Big Duncan with it. He smashed it off my back, and he's bigger, so it should have done more damage. But no,
I tell you what. I'm going to ask him this when he comes on to Sportswire Radio with a Fuse. I will ask you UK. I will do that. You have my word. We'll definitely do that.
I'll be watching when you do.
Oh, I'm sure somebody will. And Lauren says the original formation of the collective, that was a different time.
That was a different time, Mr. Breeze. It was indeed. That was myself. Cayman Carlisle was the leader. Myself, Henry Winter, Shelby Siner, and Andrew Jepson. That was the original formation. And then as happens with groups.
And Henry Winter's been in the news because we saw what Dan Robertson did to him, and that was taken back by a lot of people. We asked Dan about that last time he came on Sportswire, and certainly Andrew Jepson had a lot of success in different places, and that was definitely a very, very strong group. But I have a feeling that the Playtime Mafia are going to be very strong, and of course Jayrow and Big Duncan and UKW, and he gives an LOL. But let me ask you this last question here before closing thoughts, and I do want to talk about February the 4th one more time. What is your final words to the modern day Mafias, Joel Cobra and Dave Douglas, before the big show coming up here?
Simple. Playtime.
Ooh. Ladies and gentlemen, I think Uncle Ralph, the bat signal just went up because Uncle Ralph has responded. He says, I have enjoyed tonight's program. For in some interviews, all you hear are insults hurled about. Not so in this one. Just good, constructive views expressed. A refreshing change. I look forward to the Clash of the Mafia. So I guess, Uncle Ralph, he respects you. So, I mean, listen, this could be an interesting match. I'll tell you what, certainly not the tone that Uncle Ralph took when I spoke about the working class militia. When it came, anytime I mentioned them, Uncle Ralph didn't take that tone. So he's taking a different tone here tonight on Sportswire Radio. So this is going to be a fun match. I can't wait to watch it. I hope somewhere I can get the tape for it. I'm sure that somebody will hopefully wink, wink, supply us that on Sportswire. It always happens that way. I don't want to tip my hand on how, but we always get the footage from somebody, somewhere, somehow, in some way. But it has been a tremendous honor, Jayrow, to have you. I could talk all day with you. You have such an accomplished background. I know we'll get you back on here in the coming weeks. You were really one of the guys. You were one of the guys that eluded me for months. I'm glad we finally made this happen. You definitely showed you were worth it and some. And I agree with Uncle Ralph 100%. It was all constructive views. It was all positive. It was very refreshing to have you on. I can't wait to do it again with you again. So now I want to turn it over to you. I want to give you the floor. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Anything you want to plug, share, say, and the floor is yours, my friend, and fire away.
All I can say is keep watching Blackout Wrestling, keep watching UK wrestling, non-stop action wrestling, because British wrestling on a whole is just getting bigger and better every year.
Absolutely.
So just keep watching. Just keep on watching. And like I say, I don't make plans. I let the universe do the talking for me. So let's see what happens. And along the way, let's have some fun. That's all I can say.
Absolutely. And Jayrow.Lewis on Instagram. Also, please follow his page on Facebook as well. Playtime Mafia's page is out there. Also, Big Duncan. Follow Big Duncan's page. Also, Blackheart Wrestling UK on Instagram, Facebook. Nonstop Action Wrestling on YouTube. Nonstop Action Wrestling Universe on Facebook as well. And Saw Wrestling UK on Instagram. Tickets are out there still as well. Also, I want to give a follow to UKW TV on Instagram, UKW Wrestling on Facebook as well. Please follow all those great companies. Jayrow Lewis is going to be a part of all those great companies. He has a big, big 2023 ahead of him. Please support him. Everybody else that comes on here. And she says, Playtime Mafia for the win. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to say that the Mafia wins because I'm going to be put in a really uncomfortable position here because Uncle Ralph is kind of like my adopted uncle, and I know Joel very well, but I'm a big fan of your work, and I'm also a big fan of Cerebral Steve's work. So I hope here for a great match. I have no doubt it will be a great match. It will be for a great cause. My friend, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really look forward to speaking with you in the future. I hope it'll be a lot sooner. I hope you won't elude me for as long as you've had, and keep up the good work, and I look forward to watching you for a very, very big 2023.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we were here with pro wrestling star, former world champion, tag team champion, Grand Slam winner Jayrow Lewis, who is going to be back returning from injury on February the 4th at the Tommy Dillon Wrestling for Kirkwood show. He is going to be wrestling alongside Cerebral Steve, his tag team partner outside of the UKW at the moment against the Modern Day Mafias, Joel Cobra and Dave Douglas. For more information on that show, you can go to Wildcard Tommy Dillon on Facebook and Instagram. For more information, please support their great cause. That'll be February the 4th. That'll be 3 weeks from this coming weekend. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I am the man behind Sportswire Radio. I will be back this Thursday coming up starting at 8 p.m. British Standard Time with Jenna. We'll have a lot to speak about with him. Also, Jenna's making his debut on Sportswire Radio, and Disciple, the current Nonstop Action Wrestling and GT Ministries world champion, will be right afterwards. So if you are on sportnarium.com/player, you'll go back to your regularly scheduled programming. If you like, please support all these great companies. Also follow us on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. Thank everybody here for tuning in on the number one global radio station that is Sportswire Radio.